All right, welcome back everybody, and we are going to kick off 2023 the right way with Jimi Hendrix, and you're going to learn how to play Little Wing just like you know it on the record. I've been wanting to do this one for a long time, and I'm super excited to break down this lesson. Now I know there's a lot of good tutorials out there on YouTube on the song, but most of them really just focus on the intro or the lead. And I'm going to take you through everything. So we're going to learn the intro section, spend time on that. We're going to go through the verses, because the verse sections are just, it's just more greatness and more Jimi-isms. And I think there's a whole lot to learn in those verses. So we're going to go through the verse sections. And then of course, we're going to tackle the guitar solo. Hey, if you haven't done so already, I appreciate it if you jump down right now and click that red subscribe button and ring the bell. The bell lets you know every time I drop new content, which I do every single week. All my lessons have jump links in them, so you can go right to the part of the lesson that you want to see and bypass some of my yapping if you like. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I really appreciate that. There's super thanks, which is just like throwing a tip in the tip jar right below. You can click, or you can join my Patreon page where I have chord charts and tabs for all the songs that I do on YouTube. And there's even a 12-foot chain store with some fun merchandise in there. All the links are down in the description, so check it out. Okay, so Jimi Hendrix, Little Wing. This was recorded in October of 1967, and it came out as part of his Access Bold as Love record, which was like very end of 67, beginning of 68. And I think this is just one of those Hendrix songs where his little, I call them Hendrix-isms, come out. They're all through this. This whole song is just him jamming across one chord progression that repeats 4 times, or maybe a little more than 4 on the outro. But there's no bridge section, there's no different for the chorus. It's one chord section that repeats, and he's just jamming different things across it, and it's really illustrative of a lot of the techniques that he has. So I'm going to spend some time not only showing you the parts, but what I think is sort of unique about the way he's playing to get the sound that he's getting. Now, if you want to jump right to the lesson part and you don't want to hear this intro stuff, that's going to start right here. So go ahead and check that out if you want. So let's talk about a couple of techniques that is on display here. So Jimi, whenever he's playing, and I don't know if he always does it on every song. I would never say Jimi does always, all the time, anything. But a lot of the time, he's using what's called a thumbover technique. So when you're playing a big bar chord, a bar chord that requires the 6th string, he's not fingering it like this. He's using his thumb, and really the fleshy part of his thumb, to lay over the fret to cover that 6th string, and which frees up 4 fingers to do a lot of work over here on the bottom strings, right? And sometimes even that thumb can be used to mute that 5th string if you don't want it. And mute that 5th and just have... So that goes on a lot. And all the chords that requires that. So the G is that. The A minor is that. The B minor... B, F, all of those are using the thumb, right? So just be aware of that. If that's new to you, it'll take a lot of practice, but I encourage you to try that because it opens up a lot of new playing techniques for you, and a lot of the Jimi-isms require that if you really want to get what he's doing. Something else I'll call out that repeats throughout here is he has a lot of sus2 chord voicings, suspended to, right? And it's done in sort of a unique way that I haven't really seen any other players do. So for example, a G sus2. A G sus2 chord is a G with an A in it, an A note in it, right? The way that he's using it in this song is off of his thumbover technique to do that, and it's a kind of a stretch, right? But he does it where he's thumbing over on 3, and what he does is, if you can picture this part of a G chord, those 3, the note that you need is an A. So the way he's playing that A is he's using this A note here on the 2nd fret of the G string. So the way that he builds his fingering is he's using his index finger there. So it's almost like you're starting to make a D, and then you finish off the regular sort of bar chord part of your G here, right? So, and it allows you to pick up your ring finger. Right? So it allows that. So he plays that, I believe, during the song. He plays that on a G position. In the solo, I believe he also plays it in a C position, which is up here, and a D position. But just wanted to point out that's one of the Jimi-isms, and I think it shows up in other songs that he does too. But that's another sort of chord voicing that I didn't really know before. That's sort of all over in here. So that's the sus2 chord. One of the other riffs that shows up here that repeats throughout is whenever he goes to the A minor chord, he does a riff that is really interesting. It is almost like a chromatic, not a chromatic, but it's almost like a major scale descending, like a C major scale descending. Now, you probably know that A minor and C are related, right? So A minor is the relative minor of C, or C is the relative major of A minor, however you want to say that, right? So if you play an A minor chord, you can do a scale walk down, which was right. That's a C major scale. Think of it, and it still fits over whether it's a C or an A minor, right? Right. And so what happens is when he gets to the A minor chords, which we learned was the thumbover, what he does is he pivots his hand and he's going to use his pinky, and he comes up here and he plays, or some version of that. But I thought that's really cool because you get this dissonant. Those are one note apart, right? But all it is a it's like a C major scale walking down. And that fits over an A minor, fits over a C, but he's using that very often when he goes to that A minor, sort of like to get out of the A minor. That's what he does. So, for example, just sort of sticks it in there. Okay, and the last thing I want to call out before we get to the actual lesson part is the timing. So the timing is really interesting. He's so loose playing this, very much jamming, but the timing that he has oscillates between swing time and very much straight time. And stick with me to the end of the video. There's another video that's out there that I wanted to promote that goes into great detail on this too. But I'll call out some of the points where that's happening as we go through the lesson. But he's very fluid how he moves through sort of the swing part, which is mostly what he's playing, and how he interjects these sort of little straight time riffs within it, and it all works. Okay, in terms of tone and sound, by the way, Fender Stratocaster, what else? For the rhythm section, for most of the song, in my opinion, he's using the number 4 position on the Strat, right? So this is, one back from all the way forward on your 5 position switch. Back in the day, the Strats had 3 positions, and so what he would have had to have done is take that switch and just sort of, you can kind of rock it forward so it straddles both. But it does the same thing. It activates both of these pickups is what it's doing. But that's the sound of this record. When he goes to the solo, I think it sounds better when you're straight up on your bridge pickup. So I'm living on your number 4 position. On my Strat, I've got my tone sort of back, I don't know, around 8 or so, not totally maxed, and my volume up. And this is clean. So the intro section is very, very clean. In fact, I don't even know if there's reverb or anything on it in the very beginning. And finally, the tuning. The tuning is E flat. In fact, I think it's flat of E flat. It's here. Whatever that is, right? So it's just south of E flat, you want to call it that. Okay, so that's the intro. So number one, that first, all right, it is this fingering. You are only playing the E and B and the low E. You're muting the rest of them, right? So it's not what I always thought all my life. It's not that. It's not that. It's, so that low note is definitely in there. Right. All right, and then the little pickup that gets you into your song. I sort of pop it on the upstroke there. And grabbing my thumb over is sliding into my G note. All right. Which leaves my fingers now to move on to the next part. So that is just those 3 strings. Right? So that's a little suspended 4. Slide up to your A. So more of that popping, right? That 2-string pop. That's how that goes. Now we're up to our E minor 7. And he always does that. He always does that little flicker throughout the song whenever he comes to that chord, right? It's all, the variances come sort of after that, but he always hits that. So after that, you're on your E minor 7, and you're gonna keep your finger barred right over there on 7, and you're just gonna play over what you have barred there. Right? So if you think about that chord, you're just popping notes that are in the scale of that chord right over it and hammering on. Okay, now we're into our B minor. So I'm just really concentrating on those last 3 strings. So 1 down to B flat, down to your A flat, or A minor. And here's where we go to that walk down C major scale riff, or whatever you want to call that. There it is. So pop that on. End it there. And then I'm using my thumb to cover off on the low 6 string. All right. So here's where now the effects start coming in, right? So I believe what he's using is a Leslie. He's kicking on a rotary speaker. Could have been a Fender Vibratone. Who knows? But I'm using my Neo Instruments Ventilator 2, which is my favorite all-time Leslie pedal. And when I kick that on, it's going to give me this little bit of extra juice. It's going between the left and right speakers. I've got 2 amps going on right here to sort of maximize the effect that that gives. But now we're on to our next part. So after we come down, let me flick this off for a second. I sort of kick that on when I'm sliding into the G. All right, so that is your G chord with your add 9. And you're really only playing the D string, the B string, and the E string. So I'm muting that 3rd string. I'm moving my thumb around, but I'm not hitting that, or I'm muting the 6th string in case I do hit it. I'm not hitting that, but... So you're sliding it up 2 frets, back down 2, and then back to your F position. Right, so he does a little, just has that little sort of lick that takes you down to your F note. Right? Now, he's going to go to a C chord, but you hold your finger on the A note of your, you're in an F sort of position, right? All you're going to do is move your ring finger to the C, and I'll show you why in a minute. All right, so we're going to slide up. So you're going to catch that C note, but he's got, for this one time only, and he only does it this one time, he has that A note down while he's playing a C chord. But that is the sort of voicing that you're going to get to. And you're going to flick your pinky 2 frets up on the B string between the 3rd fret and the 1st fret and catch that A note. Slide up to D. And you want to slide up in that position because you're going to play a little lick up here, up above, okay? So you're not going to end on a D chord here. You're going to slide it up. Okay, so that descending part. And the last riff. Okay, so that's the intro section. Let's go to verse 1. Okay, here's the first verse section. I'm going to demo it real quick, and then we'll break it down just like we did the other. All right, so verse 1, again, same chord structure. We're just going to have different little Jimi-isms, or different little jamming on all of those chords that'll be slightly different this time. So the first verse, we kick it off with the same sort of that, without the first, right? But you're going to do the same voicing on 6, 1, and 2. And first chord is an E minor, and what he does is he sort of loosely hits, he doesn't go all the way across, he's sort of loosely hitting between 4 and 2. You kind of hear that B note. And he does that hammer-on pull-off on the D string. And then he closes that out by... All right, and once you get to the G, here's where your G sus2 fingering comes in. Right? Now you could relax a little bit instead of utilizing the stretch of your pinky up to the 5th fret on D. That's a G note, right? So you're right there and your open G string is there. So you could do... a lot easier. Pretty much accomplishes the same thing. I can't really tell which way he's going on the record. If you sort of seek out what's the other sort of YouTube guitar guys, they're all seem to be squarely in this camp. So maybe they're hearing those two notes rubbed together. But either way, so your G sus, you slide right into that A minor and you go right into your descending riff again. And this time you close it out with, right, so the whole thing together. Down to your E. Same flick. He does that little voicing. He just picks up your ring finger before you transition into your B minor. Right, so the timing of that is something that took a little while to get, right? 1, 2. And that one, I think he even does a little flick, right? Does that little extra flick. Sting your A minor there. And then your riff comes back. And you sort of close it off with that going upwards. The last note you're hitting is that F. And when you land on your G, it's that little sus4 resolving to your G. With 2 quick stabs, upstrokes on your F add 9. Right? This time I'm pretty sure he ends it on a regular C chord to a regular D chord, just cowboy chords. And a very light touch too. If you listen to it on the isolated tracks, and I'll have a link to that in the description too, by the way. It's very light touch. Okay, so let's go to verse 2 now. I'll demo that and then again break down the parts. All right, so that's verse 2. Little bit different noodling going on there, slightly different, but you know, all in the same family, right? So this time there's not a clear, it's just, he hits one of the lower strings. Anyway, so he gets down to your E minor. I think he just lets that E string ring. He doesn't actually ever fret the E minor down there. What he does is he does this little riff up here. The first one is an upstroke, and the rest, I think, are downstrokes. But what he's doing is he's leaving this E string open, and he's doing shifting it over a string. So you're fretting at 12 and hammering on at 14 and pulling off again, right? And then now downstroke from on the sliding the whole thing over. Again, only 2 string. And then the last 2 are without the droning open string. So the whole thing together. And you jump down to your G. That's how I hear it anyway, right? That little part, that little flurry happens when you start singing the She Comes to Me part. Right, now this next part, love it. So that's again, remember the last time we did this, or whatever that was, based on that G sus. So this is just part of that G sus chord. It's, you've established the root of G with your low, and you're just gonna fret these two notes. It's like a part of a D chord, but it's really the part of the G sus chord. And you're just sliding it up and down 2 frets. I think his pick catches it. That's second time down. Pick. You can hear him do that, right? So. And up to your A minor. And this time your A minor is just touching a little bit of that. And here's where he goes from swing time to straight time. And he's going to do a riff like this. So you can, here's the feel. Well, that's sort of swing time. And then he gets very stiff. Right? So the feel is totally different. Down to that. Back to your E minor 7. And he gets out of this E minor 7 by the riff that he plays there, which is awesome because it completely 100% matches Mitch Mitchell's drum fill there. When he's doing that, Mitchell is doing the same thing. Now this B minor to A minor part is a little trickier once we get down to the A minor. So, but the riff that he's playing there, right? Now when we get to the A minor, you're just going to hit the last 2 strings. You're going to hit that little thing. And this little sequence that happens here, it's very cool. It's super loose. I'm sure he didn't think anything about it when he was doing it. But it closes out like this. So you're going to flurry, and he catches an open D note. It could be fretted over here, but I think it's a lot to get your finger over there. But you're landing there. So real slow. Let me ring through that. And then we're going to come out of that with. So this time we didn't do that A minor or C descending thing, right? This one time. So real quick again. G. And it's a very quick G. And the riff is. So remember last time we did. This time it's. Oop, I overstepped there. Right? So you're just going. Na, na, na. And again, where we're just grabbing the D string, B string, and E string. We're going to climb up to C. He does that little pickup. And And that's how you close out that part. So those are, I think, pretty clearly these power chords: root, fifth root, C to D. All right, now we're about to launch into the guitar solo. Before we do that, I want to talk about the rhythm guitar that's happening underneath the guitar solo, because yes, there is one. I think the way that they track this song is everything that you've heard on that guitar, he's continuing to play that as a bed on the guitar solo. So he needs that rhythm pounding underneath. The guitar solo was layered on afterwards, I believe, because it's the very same guitar tone, feel, everything going on. So number one, I'm going to talk about that harmonic dive in just a minute, because there's something interesting about that. So all that's happening is the tempo picks up a little bit. The energy and the tempo is picking up a little bit. But all he's doing from the rhythm guitar underneath the guitar solo is just hitting the chords pretty aggressively. And he is doing a little bit of the flourishes that we learned during the verses, but it's something like this. So I botched a couple things in there, but what I wanted to get across is the energy of it, of what's happening, right? The pace is picked up a little bit, the energy's picked up, but he's chugging along on those chords. On the G, he's doing that. On the A minor, he might even be doing, but he's at least doing some kind of flickering going on. He still gets this. He does this. He's doing all of that stuff. And then the really cool thing that I caught that happens that doesn't happen on the other parts of the song is he jumps from that C to D after that part. So he does that. It happens a lot quicker, and it sort of, you really miss it if you don't hear, if that doesn't happen. If you're playing live in a band and you've got a rhythm guitar playing along with you, tell them to hit that, because it sounds, there's something about that just matches with the solo. That's perfect. Right, so it's just that aggressive strum there. Okay, so the harmonic dive. So I believe the harmonic dive is played by this rhythm guitar. It is not played by the lead guitar. I believe the lead guitar is just the lead that comes in on its own. Of course, when he's playing live, he has to do all of it. And he, of course, has to do that dive. But the tone that you hear on it and how long that dive goes on, I think clearly it's you know, the lead comes in on top of that, like, is my opinion. But here is the harmonic, and again, this is where I was saying, like, stop listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan if you want to learn the Jimmy version. What it is not is a straight across harmonic. It is not that, in my opinion. In my opinion, what he does is he does catch that 12th harmonic. He's pretty much hitting 4, 3, and 2, but that E, that's an open E string that's happening there, in my opinion. It's that. And listen to this. Now listen to the real thing. And listen to this. Listen to the real thing. I think that's closer to what it is. So that's my opinion of what that harmonic dive is. And it's end with that big. So all of that I think is happening with the rhythm guitar. So that's what's happening as the bed for the lead. So now let's talk about the lead. All right, this is such a great lead, of course, we all know. And one thing I'll call attention to, you'll notice not a lot of overdrive. In fact, I don't have any overdrive on this. The only overdrive sort of that, or gain that's going on, is maybe something that's kicking out from the Leslie pedal, the sort of drive emulated there, but even that's very weak. I am adding a phase 90. I hear a little more than just the Leslie, and I'm not sure exactly what he used or whatever, but to my ear, this is helping get it closer. So I just have my Leslie and my phase 90. And now I'm moving to my bridge pickup. Okay? So let me run through the lead real quick. Okay, I think I flubbed a note in there somewhere. But God, what a great solo. So beautiful, so melodic. Any solo that you can sing vocally wins, in my opinion. Okay. Right, so again, this is happening over all the same chords that we've learned, right? So he opens it up with we're sort of in the G major pentatonic is where he's mostly living in this. Right, okay. So comes in with the bend up from 15 on the B string. And I think he catches that first string at 12 to close it out. So I hear it as... Could be. But that might be Stevie Ray Vaughan sneaking in, right? But... Okay, then we're going to go to our big bend. The first bend on the G, it's just two notes. He doesn't grab the B string on there. It's slide it down 2 frets. That time he does catch the B, right? So the first time, the second time, he's getting both of them. Now we're not going to do what Stevie did, which is to repeat that down on C and slide it up again to D. So here's where those sus chords come in again. So he's playing at this position, sliding up to 12. Is the riff on the D. So the C riff is, and the D riff is, right? Now you could, in terms of notes, you could play those same notes down here and it's a little bit easier. Right? And you might, maybe he did. But you sort of hear the thickness of the strings. And the advantage of playing it up here too is when you're playing it live, then you can go right to your next. Right? Because you're right there. If you were coming off that riff down here, you'd have to get your hand up there real quick. All right. And then there's a little bit of the fade out. He hits it again. So it's a little bit different there, but it's the same announcing in the beginning of the riff. And he sort of noodles a little bit around there, and then that's it. It fades out. But that's the main part. So, you know, each one of these is that was E minor, G. See how that fits? Still on G. Next chord is A minor. There's an A. E minor 7. Now do some blues. B minor 7. That A note is still in there on your B minor 7. Right, so on your B minor 7, that's during your chromatic down. There you go. That's how they fit together. Hey, I just want to pause here to do this while I was recording the guitar. There are 3 channels that I really wanted to call your attention to that that I'd like you to check out for more information on this. So the first is JB Eckel. He's got a great channel and has a series called Rocksplaining, and he does one on this particular song, and he goes through the intro and he talks a lot about the timing, like the timing between swing time and straight time, and a lot more detail, and it's worth the look if you're into that. Secondly, there's a Little Wing cover with tabs that Mr. Tabs does, but that is also super valuable to watch. And then third, there's the actual isolated tracks of the song itself. DLD to Music has a great version of that. So I'm linking all of them right here, and just wanted to give them a shout out and credit, and thanks for all the great work that they did. It helped inform some of the blank spots that I had. Okay, back to it. All right, so did you learn something new today? I really hope you did. That was Jimi Hendrix' Little Wing, such a masterpiece of rock music. And, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Hey, if you haven't done so already and you like what you saw today, jump down right now and click subscribe and ring that bell. The bell will let you know every time I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this lesson, and if there's another song you want me to take on and do something similar, please let me know that too. Okay, so until next week, take care, everybody.